Good morning or good afternoon, wherever you're at today. This is Rob Edwards with Great Plains Annuity and Life Marketing. I'm joined by Mike Lair, our Senior VP of Annuity Marketing. Mike's going to be showing you one of our top-selling FIAs and why it's so easy to sell today. We want to thank everybody for joining us. I want to remind you all, please use the question dialog box. The phones are muted, and if you have any questions, Mike will get to those towards the end of today's presentation. Mike, take it away.
Thank you, Rob. Good afternoon, everybody. I appreciate your time. I know, especially during the holiday season, it's hard to break away and spend the time, so I truly appreciate this. Also, in respect for everyone's time, I'll try to make this a relatively brief presentation. Try not to get too long-winded, which is tough for me. But I'll just cover basically some of the facts about the product, why we're having such success with it, and much of it is due to the tools that we're going to be sharing with you. And the tools are all mostly visual, and some anecdotal stories they'll share, but mostly it's just the returns. Quite honestly, the returns on the product, and I'm sorry, let's get the mystery out of the way. The product is the Guggenheim TriVysta. It has, for the last probably year or so, been our lead product. Most of the reason is because agents like it because it's a twofold sale. It can either be an accumulation-only product, or it has a fantastic income rider on it that goes for 20 years. I'll spend some more time on that. But with that said, let's just go ahead and get into some of the things we'll be covering. Again, it's the Guggenheim TriVysta. We'll be going over some illustrations. The illustrations, we've been told by agents to help the sale a lot. The products illustrate quite well, and in conjunction with the actual statements we've been seeing over the last year on two of the exclusive indexes available in this product have been well, they sell itself. We show those returns. Clients, whether it's just for accumulation only or for an income rider, which can have increasing income, it can really make the sale a lot more easy. Double-digit returns, as I mentioned, we will be showing you some of the recent returns in these two indexes. One is from Morgan Stanley, and it's an asset allocation index. The other is from Croaky, which is administered by Deutsche Bank. And that one has been doing stellar returns. You'll see here shortly in some of the statement samples that we've been seeing returns after, on the one-year return, after the fee of over 16%. That's a great story to tell. And then we'll be covering the optional income rider. As I mentioned, it's a 20-year product. It starts with a 10% bonus and then grows at 4% plus what the index gains are. So you can imagine you get a 10% bonus to year number one. Your base contract is earning earns 15 or 16%. Can't expect that every year, but then on top of that, you're going to get it's possible. If a client bought it and put it all into the Croaky index, they could have gotten a bump start of 30% right off the bat in the first year if they'd been in the Croaky during this last year. Again, you can't expect that every year. Wouldn't tell your clients not to expect that every year, but those are the types of returns we have been seeing recently. And again, it sells itself. And we'll be sharing some client-approved videos, some links from the Guggenheim website for the elite agents. You do have to become a lead agent. We are one of the few marketing organizations in the country that has access to this. And so if you work with us, and we will get you elite agent status, which means you'll have access to these videos, these tools. They're all client-friendly, client-approved, as well as some links so you can see the returns. So with that said, let's just go over the product basics real quick. I'll try to make this very brief, and then we'll just get right to the tools. But again, the Guggenheim TriVysta, the product has a minimum premium for non-qualified funds of $10,000 or $5,000 for qualified funds. And it does go through age 81. It's 0 through age 81 on the issue ages. And if you'll see in the third column, it has 3 different indexes that you can choose from. The S&P 500 with no volatility controls, just the pure S&P 500. With a 4.75% cap, which is pretty high up there in today's market. You'll see nowadays some caps of 5%, but if you're seeing anything over 4.5%, that's a pretty solid cap on a non-volatility control index on the S&P 500. The next two options you'll see under the strategies column are the Croaky 2. The first two Croakys have a volatility control. They keep the volatility control at 5.5%. And for those of you that don't know what volatility controls are, it's simply a matter in a way that companies move money between the different stock indices and the options that they buy to back up these returns and cash. If the indexes become too volatile, they can afford to pay less and afford less in options that they pay for. Therefore, if they can control the volatility control, the cost of options becomes less, which means the higher returns can be passed along to the client. So that can be a very good thing. So there are two volatility controls on the Croaky. The Croaky is an international stock index. Deutsche Bank goes out and finds the 5 different sectors that are out there that are underperforming the rest of the economies, and they then they have their own proprietary formula that puts every stock and every asset that's owned by the Croaky index on the same playing level after accounting for international and foreign exchanges. So it's all being on a level playing field. So when you're talking international stocks, it's all international stocks, but on the same level. So the 1 year has a 100% participation rate, no cap, and it simply has a 2.25% spread. So anything over 2.25 that it makes gets passed along to the client, and that's your seeing double-digit returns on the Croaky. The 2 year has an 80% participation rate with no cap and no spread. There are a lot of agents who also do the 2 year point-to-point with the Croaky volatility control. We do, however, see more agents doing the 1 year simply because a lot of agents and a lot of clients have a fear that the markets have overextended themselves. We've had such a long bull market that even 2 and 5 years especially scare more agents and many clients as well. So that we do see more products in the 1 year than the 2 and 5. And the 5 year Croaky is, instead of volatility control, you just get the pure Croaky index, and you simply get 30% with no cap and no spread. Again, in the long run, it can do well, but again, it's just a matter of whether you and the client want to lock in the gains. Same thing with the Morgan Stanley on the 1, 2, and 5 years. We see more sales in the 1 year and some in the 2, a little less than the 5, even though you get a really nice bump up. If you do the 5 year Morgan Stanley, you get a 120% participation rate with no fee and no cap. And just to, because I haven't said it yet, the Morgan Stanley is an asset allocation index. It's comprised of stocks, bonds, commodities, real estate, foreign exchange, and cash to kind of decrease volatility in it. The back testing on this product has been live since 2015. The back testing on this formula that they have is a proprietary formula that they can't vary from. They can't take any, they can't do anything other than what their formula says about how they're supposed to move money between the commodities and the real estate and the stocks to maximize return and minimize risk. And so the 1 year and the 2 year are the most popular, and with the 1 year you get a 90% participation rate with no cap and no fee. And again, you have a asset manager at Deutsche Bank that knows what they're doing, just like the, with Morgan Stanley, you get an asset manager who knows what they're doing, in addition to like the same thing you get with Deutsche Bank with the Croaky. The returns on the Morgan Stanley have not been quite as impressive, the Croaky International Stock Index, but that's to be expected because it's made up a lot of commodities, real estate, bonds, and the rest that are going to limit risk, but give you a long-term steadier upside returns, and a fixed rate of 2.4%. Commission to the agent is 7%, 0 to 75, 5%, 76 to 80, and 3.5, 81 years old. There are reduced commissions of basically 1% lower in 12 states, including Pennsylvania, Missouri. Well, you see the states listed there. And that's because there's no market value adjustment in those states, and the surrender charge is a little bit less. So that's why the commission to the agent is a little bit less. It's a product that benefits the client because the client doesn't pay for any of that. It's simply a slightly lower commission for the agent. The income rider, as you'll see in the next column, is a 10% premium bonus, and it grows at 4% plus the base contract index gains for a 20-year period. What you'll see shortly here is, but not only is that happening during the growth period, it's also happening during the payout phase. If you are having, let's say your payouts are at a 5.5% payout rate, but you're earning 4% in your index, base contract, there's earning another 4%. You're making money. The product is still gaining money more than it's paying out. And they will pass, they being Guggenheim, will pass that income rider gains onto you with increasing income. You don't see that with many indexed annuities, especially one that's guaranteed to grow for 20 years. So that's why it can be sold just as easily as an income rider product as it can for an accumulation only product. It's your choice, your client's choice. It's a 10-year product and 10% annual liquidity, full account value death, just a real simple, real fair product. Now, with that said, let's just get right to the tools. And bear with me because we're going to be going between screens, and hopefully I won't lose some of this material. Some of the things that I wanted to show you were the recent returns. Here is, these are excerpts from the Guggenheim Elite site, and these numbers are updated through December here, as of December 15th. And if you'll see, and hopefully everyone can see this, the year-to-date of 2017 is a 17.7% return on the Croaky 2 index. This is the one-year reset product. I mean, after you take out the fee, you're still over, 15%. So, and sometimes the returns, and I just saw it through today, the returns are over 18.34%. You take out that spread, and you're seeing some really fantastic returns. And you can see month by month, here in 2017, you can see month by month how well this thing has performed every month. It went up almost 3% in just February alone on a short month. And you can see 2.8 in July. So again, these numbers back into these numbers you see up here, it's had stellar returns. Clients have been very happy to see that. I'll show you a few statements here shortly. And similarly, on Morgan Stanley, the Asset Allocation Index, it's done really well in 2017 as well. We've been seeing returns of anywhere between 4 and up, sometimes as high as 7%, generally in the 5 to 6% range. And for an asset allocation index, that's a pretty solid return, especially when most capped S&P indexes are at 5% or less. So as you can see the returns here, maybe a little small on the screen, but as you can see, February did 1.9, and April did 1.5, May 1.7, so July 1.3. So when you add up these numbers, again, you are looking at returns of over 5%, sometimes up to 7. But again, this product went live, or this index went live in 2015. All of the numbers that you see in these one-year returns, those are annual, January to December. Those prior to 2015, those are all based on that formula that Morgan Stanley must follow. And these numbers you see from the Deutsche Bank Croaky index, these are all real live numbers on a real live index. So no back testing involved with these. So with that said, I'll try to get out of this. And excuse the technical glitch. And we'll go back in and show you some of the statements. And again, there are no names on these, but you're free to get copies of these from us or any of the recruiters here. And if you look at the TriVysta statements, look at the first one from November 9th of 2016 through November 8th of 2017. If you look at the S&P 500, the fixed rate was 2.25, solid. The cap on the S&P was 4.5, so it got 4.5 on the credited rate. If you look at the Croaky 1 year with a 1.85% spread, which is what it was when it was issued in 2016, this is a 16.3% return the clients got. This is locked in. This is now their 16.3% return. If they had an income rider on this product with a 10% bonus, the income rider value would have been 16.3 plus 4% plus 10% bonus. That would have been well over a 30% gain on the index value just in the first year alone. So as you can see, if your client sees this number and you tell them that they have no downside risk and you've locked in this gain for 1 year, I don't know who's not going to be impressed by that. Maybe the Croaky is an index they've heard of before, but quite honestly, you have materials, I'll show you some of the other tools to explain what the Croaky is, and they can track it themselves. They can't track it like they do in the evening news on the S&P 500, but it's definitely something that they can go in and go to Yahoo Finance or Google or whatever and just type in the codes, and they can see daily what the returns are. So you can see the 2 year would have returned over 17% for over the last 2 years. if they've been in that index with an 85% participation rate and no fee. Again, nothing to sneeze at. Again, the 2-year doesn't get as much premium as the 1-year because of folks want to lock it in sooner and just not take a chance on a market downturn, but the numbers speak for themselves. And the product has not been available for 5 years yet. It's only been available since 2015 when it went live. So there's nothing to return on the Croaky 5-year. Morgan Stanley, look at the returns. They're solid. This is an asset allocation index. This is meant to be conservative, but also give you a real good growth. You're seeing, even at the 80% participation rate, you're seeing a 7.42% credited rate over this last year on the 1-year. It was 9.28% return on the index. Apply the 80% participation rate, 7.42. That's a solid return where everyone else is going to be capped out at 4.5%, maybe 5%, if you're lucky. The 2-year, again, 100% participation rate. Again, that would have locked in a gain of 9.82% over the last 2 years. Again, this is the more conservative of the 2 indexes that are exclusive. You're going to have a client that's very happy when they're getting 1 or 2 or 3% guaranteed returns in the bank or other CDs with no downside risk. And you can see the renewal rates. I thought I might just show this to you as well. Look at the renewal rates. They're still renewing at the 2.25 cap. It was issued a fixed rate. It was issued at the 4.25 cap. It went down slightly, but it's still only a quarter point less. They did bump up the spread, but even with a 2.75% spread, if you were getting a 16 to 18% return, you're still talking returns over 15%. So, and again, the Morgan Stanley, the MSDSI, the Asset Allocation Index, these all stayed at the same participation rate with no cap and no fee as they were issued at. So it's a product with a strong renewal rate history already, and they're not playing games like you see with some other carriers. And just to kind of not belabor the point, but here's the next slide. This one is actually from a October return. You're still seeing October returns of 4.8% on the cap, on the S&P, 13.72, and 5.98. Again, these are all really solid returns. This next one was from September. You'll see September was 4.9 in the S&P 500, over 2.5% on the Croaky 1-year, and over 5% on the Morgan Stanley. I think you get the gist. I can show you more, and if you want to contact me or any other sales reps, we all have these available, but this sells it. This is a tool. This using the client's real numbers, showing this is what real people got, not any back tested numbers, not what some grid or something you saw from the company. These are real statements, real returns that the client's got. That's a tool you can use. Now, along that line, I will try to show you some additional returns or some additional tools. The quotes. Now, this will be an accumulation-only product, and I split funds among all of the different indexes. As you can see here, we're breaking up, 10%, 20% in some of the different indexes, so that you can see the returns. Now, just as a salesperson and just depending on how you want to make the sale, our most popular combo is the 1-year Morgan Stanley and the 1-year Croaky Index. And also, if you illustrate these products using the 50-50 split of those indexes, that's also going to maximize the return. Now, I didn't do that here. I wanted you to be able to see the different index returns that they illustrate on the software, which again helps make the sale. But if you want to really maximize both a growth product or an income rider, the 50-50 split in the Croaky 1-year and the 50-50 split with the Morgan Stanley 1-year is really going to help you maximize returns for the client. So as you can see on each page, they have guaranteed numbers. The guaranteed interest is because you put some of the money into the fixed account. You'll see the number in the most recent 10-year period for all of the indexes, all of these numbers combined on what it would give based on the most recent 10 years. And further down, what you'll see is based on the 1-year, this is the Croaky, I believe it is. No, this is fixed rate, I'm sorry. This is the fixed rate of 2.4. And here's the S&P 500 with a 4.75% cap. You can see what the returns were over here in this column. So again, with a 4.75% cap, pretty solid. And here is the Croaky 1-year with a 2.25% spread. if you look, you're still seeing, based on historic numbers from the last 10 years, you're still seeing returns of 10% or 6%, somewhere in that range. Again, this does not account for yet because the 2017 numbers haven't been published. This account, you won't even see next year. You'll see the top statement, or the first year, you'll see an over 16% return on this index. That's going to be one heck of a story to tell a client. And likewise, you can see both on the Croaky 2-year, what the index change were, and then what the credited rates were, as well as the Croaky 5-year, then the Morgan Stanley 1-year, and then the Morgan Stanley again. You can see these returns over 12%. Again, this is a back-tested number, but using that formula, these are returns that are very likely possible for the client. And again, even current returns over 6%, it's a solid return for, especially for a relatively conservative asset allocation index. So that is also another tool you can use. The illustration itself will show your clients some very, very solid returns available with this product. One of the other things I'd like to show you is the income rider. And this is possibly one of the more impressive things about this product, is the income rider. If I could get this to work with me, folks. Okay, let's try it this way. Okay, well, having a problem. Another idea. I'm going to try this from scratch, folks. I appreciate your patience with the technical difficulty. Okay, here we go. Appreciate your patience, everyone. Don't know what that was all about, but so what you'll see on the income rider, and I just use a 60-year-old male with $100,000. State really doesn't make any difference, but here's how it will illustrate on a guaranteed number. And again, I just illustrated putting the money in all of the different indexes, which actually doesn't maximize it and really maximize the returns you can be illustrating to the client, but I thought would be fair. So what you'll see here is you'll let the money grow for 5 years, and on the guaranteed side, you get $6,300 a month for the 60-year-old male when he turns 65. Here's the impressive part of the story. Based on putting some money in all the different indexes, and this isn't even maximizing the number, if you started income age 65, instead of $6,300 that you were illustrating up here, you're starting out in that same period based on historical returns, and these aren't even maximizing, using the 50-50 split between the Morgan Stanley 1-year and the Croaky 1-year. You're seeing it starting out at almost $1,100 more per year, and look at this. You're also seeing the numbers increase. That's correct. If based on historic returns, not only are you starting with a higher number 5 years down the road, but you're seeing the money increase to annual payments of over $8,200. That would illustrate even better if we were using the Morgan Stanley and Croaky indexes only and not putting into the fixed count or whatever. This is being conservative. This is a tool to show the client you've got a built-in cost of living adjustment for the client. These are not, these are real life back tested numbers. So it's not like some pie in the sky number you might see with other illustrations. This is a real tool you can show your clients for a real benefit that they could get on an increasing income as hopefully, they live a long life and need more income in later years. Well, folks, those are some of the main tools that I have available for you. Some of the other things I wanted to show you, and as you can see the tools, it's just the illustration. The numbers speak for themselves, especially those client statements. Also available to you is, if I can get started, Guggenheim makes available to you client-approved videos. And I won't make you go through them, but what I'll do here is, as we're waiting for this to pop up, they have timed out base contract information. If you want to explain it, have your client take a look at it. You can even send it to a client.
Good afternoon.
The PowerPoint goes over the base contract. It goes over the Croaky index and gives you, and see if I can get this to work a little. And so this is again.
Thanks, Croaky valuation.
Well, I seem to be losing the.
Systematic exposure to share
there we go.
the equity.
So if you see the Croaky, it will give you again. This is client approved. it will give you a rundown. It can show the client of how the croquis works, what it's made up of,
Intelligent alternative.
and again, something you can even send to the client if they don't have time to meet with you right then. So there's other material on the croquis. The Morgan Stanley index would be covered in this section. More stuff about the Morgan Stanley index, and then just miscellaneous information about the product and the income rider. So as you can see, these are nice client-approved pieces for you and you to share with your client. So with that said, there also, as we talked about, most folks won't recognize what the croquis is. They won't recognize what the Morgan Stanley index is. Those are exclusive indexes. However, if you would like your clients, if you have engineers or clients who love looking at details all the time, if they'd like to be able to track those, they can track them using these links. And I'll show you if I can get this to work here. Well, here we go. A little bit more of a delay than I hoped, but as you can see here, you can give them this link, and they can go in and see the returns themselves at any point. And this is interactive. They can go and go from day to day to find out what returns they want to see for what days. And they have the same thing with the Morgan Stanley index. The Morgan Stanley index has the same link. And again, you can send a link to the client, or you can just track it for them. And you can have an interactive sheet here that you go in, you can see the fact sheets. Morgan Stanley talks about their methodology, the breakout of the asset classes. Again, more tools so your clients fully understand what they're getting into. Well, this is a little bit longer than I'd hoped to go. It's almost half an hour. I apologize for that. If there are any questions, please feel free to give me a call or call any of your marketing reps. We'll also check to see if anyone has typed in any questions. And I see that I think someone's question was in regards to on the income rider, do they get the guaranteed return plus the growth? Yes, that's correct. Besides the 10% bonus that they get to start out, they get the 4% growth guaranteed every year. And then on top of that, they get whatever the index gains are. So again, there can be some substantial returns, especially when it grows with those types of returns for 20 years. I think that's the only question we have so far.
Yeah.
If you have any questions for myself or any of the marketing reps that are here at Great Plains, we look forward to talking to you. We'll be happy to send you all these pieces, all of these links. These are all client approved. And I thank you all for your time. Have a great 2018.